oh, we have the barrier created here. Did Nick put this up? Stop you wondering. That's great. Thanks. Okay, so we'll just go through, we'll tend to go through one at a time, feedback. So anything you have to say on feedback as well, just jump in, all right? Just the general feedback, I would say that although the topic's maybe a little bit hard because there's some terminology and some ideas which may be a little bit more unfamiliar, you did get the PowerPoint before. And I think that maybe you could have been a little bit more prepared. This would be just general feedback for everyone. Because I think that the level of performance on average was not as high as in the previous seminar that we had working from Chinese into English. And I don't know if that's because kind of everyone is coming towards the end of the year, you've had 3 weeks off for Easter, and so the performance level can drop. But there was some I think quite a few mistakes throughout, as well as some issues in pronunciation and in the choice of words and things like that too. So that would just be general feedback for everyone. Let me see. So I'm going this up so I can kind of comment as we go. Okay, so first of all, Amy. Here, this 是日美者为玉. I think you interpreted this as the beautiful stone is jade, which is not an English manner of expression at all. Say the beautiful stone is jade. With something like this, particularly when you get the PowerPoint, the day before, you're absolutely guaranteed that the speaker is going to say this. It's the subheading for the whole talk, and it needs to turn into an English phrase, or at the very least you need to explain it, because the beautiful stone is jade doesn't really make sense in English. It sounds like a Google Translate at that point. So you need to capture the essence of what is being spoken of here. And the essence of the meaning is, it's kind of to say, like, of all the stones in the world, jade is the most beautiful. Or something like that. Or the essence of a beautiful stone, or of the essences of a beautiful stone, none is greater than jade. Something like that. You need to express it at the very least in an English way. Or you can, rather than try and translate it directly, you simply explain it. You say the Chinese held jade to be the most beautiful of all stones, or something like that. But we don't want something that's halfway between the two, where it's kind of a bit of a Chinglish translation. And when you get this in notation beforehand, then this is the sort of thing you want to make sure you've really translated well. If somebody throws something like this at you and you have no preparation for it, there's no way you can anticipate it, then and if you don't feel that you can interpret it well into a kind of English-sounding expression that's a little bit poetic, because this is kind of poetic language, then you need to explain it. Don't try and translate it directly, because it won't sound right. And it's particularly the case for these sorts of things. Here, I mean, there's a couple of phrases came out that were really, the grammar was kind of all over the place, or the phraseology was confused. We had one phrase I noted down. You said, Chinese people has high standard skill. So it's those who carved jade had a high standard of skill, or the carving of jade was an example of the highly skilled craftsmanship of the Chinese people, or something like that. but Chinese people has high standard skill. It's very hard to follow in English what's trying to be articulated there. There's some omissions throughout, really, and then we come to this slide. One of the things I noted down here, the list of qualities, whatever we had, 仁义智雍节, and one of these turned into gravity. Gravity. Did you notice that? You said gravity. You were thinking of the final word, and then you came up with gravity. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I don't know what you were trying to say.
I thought she is going to say something like brave or something.
Bravery.
But came out wrong.
Yeah. What do you think? What was going through your mind when?
Maybe it's the last word, integrity.
Integrity. Okay. Integrity instead of gravity. All right. Yes, for 节. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Did you notice when you said gravity that it was wrong?
I didn't notice.
You didn't notice. Did anybody else notice gravity? It was a very conspicuous word at that time. Were you nervous today?
A little, yeah.
A little nervous. Okay, so I think, again, I've said this a lot, but remember to slow down a little bit if you're feeling nervous. You have to slow your breathing down, relax into what you're doing, and regain control. And try and listen to what you're saying as well as think about what the speaker is saying. And if you notice you said something wrong, then correct yourself. But okay, you didn't notice, so maybe you'll go back and listen to the tape and wonder about it. You were still doing the section on 富豪墨, or had you stopped then? Oh, you switched it. Okay, so I think this was your last slide then. Yeah, and then again, a couple of times I've said this to you before, that when you're struggling at the end of a sentence, you're giving it away. You're giving away the fact that you're struggling because you start kind of laughing nervously, like you've been caught out doing something naughty, and everyone can see it. So you have to, if you're going to make a mistake really confidently. Don't give it away and make a mistake without. Make the mistake confidently, and then the presentation at least looks good, and people will assume that it's their mistake, not your mistake. Okay? So yes, and then for instance, when you were as well, just use the tone of your voice more to signify when you're starting and when you're finishing. So when you're saying the list, whatever this is, goodness, righteousness, wisdom, courage, and integrity. Your list was very much, not that you use these words, but it would be goodness, righteousness, wisdom, gravity, but it's kind of hanging in the air. When you have a list, the tone of your voice is going up, it's going up, it's going up, and then it's going down. When you finish the list, the tone goes down. So think about what we call the cadence of your voice, because it's still kind of monotone. And I said this to you last time as well. I think it's quite flat. The tone is flat, so you need more dynamics in your tone. Practice, going higher pitch and going lower pitch, and following that flow. And I would say this would be general feedback for everybody. You need to listen to more English. Listen to more English speeches of a higher quality, where people are giving presentations. Listen to the way that the rise and the fall of their voice, as well as the pronunciation of their words, because it will instill it in you. You will pick it up and get the feel of it more. And I think everybody, you actually just need to listen more. Watch more speeches, not just kind of TV or YouTube or something, but really, well, you can go on YouTube, but get some good quality things on there that you can listen to. All right. So that was my feedback. Did you have anything more for Amy, Sydney? You can't remember.
I think.
Yeah.
How to translate Li in this?
Li.
So yeah, that's what I was going to add. They kind of just like, their translated Li, they just like kind of through, they didn't like. I think if I was interpreting, I would firstly just say there's a concept in that time called Li.
Yes.
And explain it
Yeah.
a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's the thing to do, because you're dealing with, actually what you've got here is etymology. Sydney's teaching etymology using oracle bones. So this is very language specific. So because it's language specific, you need to indicate, you need to say, here is a symbol, Li, and this is a symbol in modern simplified Chinese, and this is what it looks like in the oracle bone script. And the concept of Li is to do with ceremonial rites and the etiquette that it was involved in Confucian society, or something like that. So give some kind of definition to it. Li is usually translated as rites, R-I-T-E-S. If you read written literature, it's usually translated as that. However, oracle bones go back earlier than Confucian rites. So if you want to be strictly accurate, then you want to maybe be a little bit careful about talking about it as Confucian rites. I would say it describes the ceremonial, social and spiritual etiquette of Chinese society. For Li. Would you agree? Great. Okay. Anything else you wanted to add, Amy? No. Okay. Li then. Did you take over from here?
Yes.
You did. I didn't note it down for some reason when you started. Pronunciation of the word tomb. Tomb, not tome. Tome, who knows what a tome is? Everyone's going to look at 一本书. A tome. 一本书. Usually a very big one. If you say if it's a big book, it's a tome. T-O-M-E. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so just be a little careful with the pronunciation. It was understandable, but be careful there. Yes, you struggled with 两千件. Yeah. What to classify these things as, and you decided on antiques, which wasn't the worst choice you could have made. But we have a better word here. Anyone have any ideas? In a sense, something becomes an antique because we decide it is an antique. In the sense that once it's pulled out of the ground or once it's been purchased, then it's called an antique because it's valued as an antique. Okay? So antique's not quite the right word. There's another word. Also begins with A. Artifact, yeah, exactly, artifact. These are artifacts. Or you could say articles as well, would be okay, but artifact is the best here, in my view. Yes, some phrases did not come out too clearly. I noted this down, just one phrase you used. They presides some ceremonial activities. And I think, unfortunately, it was all very noisy. And again, I have to apologise. These awful pipes. It seems like every time we do interpreting, these pipes go at the same time of day. Either somebody is going up and using the toilet at exactly the same time every week, just when we're here doing interpreting class, just to cause a problem for us, or there's some other kind of problem. But I'll be raising this as a major headache for us. But anyway. When you say somebody, can you remember that bit? Lily said she presides over some ceremonial activities. I think you were talking about the.
I think I said like most of it is for God worshipping or ceremonial. No, minority of them.
Yes, a minority. That's right.
Yeah.
So there's a minority.
So except some of them are like those, and the majority is like for.
Yes. So we'd say.
Decorations and things.
Yes.
Entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would say apart from. I'm sight interpreting here your notes, but apart from their use in ceremonial activities or ceremonial or worship activities of worship, the majority of articles were used for pleasure, for enjoyment, and were in the form of small animals or other decorations. Okay, so we also had, going on from there, yeah.
There's a character missing on that slide. 吉祥.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's okay. I'm just working around that in my notes here. Pronunciation, 北方, north, it came out as Norse. Norse? North. Norse is Vikings. Okay. And for, Cindy was talking about 打猎 and 钓鱼, and you said it sounded like fishing customs, fishing. Again, it's the SH with TH there. Yeah, I think it could have been slightly clearer when Cindy was saying it's 上来家古文中的宝字写法如下，意为室内藏北藏语。So discussing the etymology of the treasure in the room, I would say here you really want to use the PowerPoint to your advantage. So you have a description that's there already for you. So use this. So you say here we can see the symbol for treasure. Here we can see the symbol for room. So so this indicates the symbol for treasure is here we have the symbol for jade, and here we have the symbol for room. So we can see that the ancient people identified the notion of treasure, or the idea of treasure, with the actual physical object of jade. So tell the story using this, and if you tell it in your own words if you need to, because that's what Sydney was trying to say from the point of view of the significance of the looking at the characters and breaking them down. When you get something like that, break them down. You know, point to them, say here is the room, here is jade. When you put them together, you get treasure. Everyone can understand that the idea behind that is to show that jade is this precious thing, and has been seen to be a precious thing even from 8,000 years ago. Avoid evil and pursue good fortune. I think that whole section about warding off evil, I think maybe we struggled a bit with the vocabulary for that, how to talk about that in English. So there's a word, an amulet, A-M-U-L-E-T, an amulet. Amulets, magic charms, those of you who've read lots of Harry Potter will probably know these sorts of words. Good luck charm, a good luck charm. So I would interpret this as an amulet for warding off evil and as a good luck charm. So both ways. Or you could say as a magic item that that wards off evil and attracts good luck or good fortune, something like that. Okay. Anything else you want to add on that? Okay. Anything you wanted to say? No? Okay. Right. Okay. Let me see. So, yes, we have the nephrite and the emerald here. So that's getting the word emerald was really needed. I pulled it out in the question towards the end. But the logic of this kind of needs, because it's a discussion on the translation of these two concepts, the soft jade and the hard jade, actually being able to describe those properly in English, I would say this is all a matter of preparation here. It's all a matter of preparation. It's very likely you would get into trouble with this without having done a lot of reading on the difference between these two. That's the only way you're going to be able to interpret that well, unless you're very, very lucky. So I would say in this instance, that was really needed to make sense of what was going on with this slide. Also, I think that the introduction, you had me second-guessing myself, but I think, Sydney, you said, you started the slide by saying, we've just talked about some of the cultural issues, the cultural factors about jade, now we'll talk about its kind of physical properties. And you kind of reversed the meaning and said, and now let's capture some cultural... Yeah. So it's actually the other way around. That was on the previous slide. Now we're coming into the talking about the physical differences. Also, the chemist. Did you say you said Sulian? Yeah. Yeah, the Soviet chemist. That's quite a nice little feature. It's not the one that we want to use. We all know Sulian, the Soviet Union. Yeah. Yeah. Soviet Union. We all know not Russia now, but Russia, everything pre-1991. Soviet Union. So that's a nice detail that we'd rather not miss out if we can afford it. Again, you improved later on in your session, but you were looking at the PowerPoint a lot still. You were kind of interpreting more to the PowerPoint. So remember, refer to the PowerPoint, but interpret to the room. You're still kind of a little bit. I think you were sort of this position for the interpretation, which is kind of like you're addressing the speaker and you're addressing the wall, but not that you're maybe a little bit at the side of the room, but definitely not Amy. Amy wasn't getting spoken to at all, you know, in that particular one. So think about that. Make sure you include the whole room. Have a 180 degree or 360 degree, no, 180 degree. Inclusion of the whole room when you're speaking. It'll really improve the experience for the audience. Couple of pronunciation things. Glossary of glass. Glossary is so cool, but I think you meant to say glossy. But we would say it has the sheen of glass, S-H-E-E-N, because glossy is an adjective, whereas sheen is the noun that we want. So a sheen of glass, or a glassy sheen, you could say. A glassy sheen. Semi-transparent. Someone else came up with a word for it later on. What's a better word for semi-transparent?
Translucent.
Translucent, yeah, translucent, exactly. And then also I want to query this one too. You said the value of hard jade won't vary according to the years. And what was it that you had said there, Sydney? I think because I thought you said that it's that the appraisal of the value did vary according to the year. What did you say? Yeah, so it's to do with the age, right, rather than the years. So it's not about how old it is or how young it is. It's a kind of fixed quantity in terms of its appraisal of value. And this is really where we needed emerald in there, because that would make sense. Emerald is actually I think it's the most valuable gemstone on the international gem market, actually. I went to a very interesting talk by a gemologist once, someone who goes and hunts for gemstones. Actually, it was my jeweler who made my wife's engagement ring, and they, we're customers who get invited to things sometimes. So the guy who goes and finds the gemstones for the jeweler came and gave a talk, and it was like champagne and everything. It was all very nice, and he was there to sell some gems. And there were all these very, very rich people in their 60s who were going and spending, £10,000 on a gem or something. Anyway, so we were just there for the free drinks and the talk. But he said, it was very interesting. He said, everybody always told me when I started my career, don't get deceived by emeralds. He said emeralds are the most deceiving of all gems because you won't. They're so hard to find, and you'll think when you found one, you'll think, oh, this is easy to find an emerald, and then you won't see another one for years, and you'll waste so much money. And he said, I think I've lost about £1 million searching for emeralds. Crazy. And he said the problem was when I was very early on in my career, I found a really good emerald. He said I found it, and it was fantastic, and it sold for so much money. And then I spent the last 20 years trying to find emeralds, and he said, and I've never learnt from my mistake, and I never learnt from the advice that I was given that you shouldn't hunt for emeralds. He hunts for sapphires instead and makes more money out of finding those. But I always thought that was very, very interesting, the world of a gemologist, going and trying to search for these things. They're considered so valuable. Anyway, that's for free. Did you do jade clothes as well? You did, didn't you? Yeah. Jade clothes. I liked, whose question was it about the cloth shoes? Yes. Yeah. It's funny because I had the same thought. So I wonder if you can actually wear the jade clothes. But anyway, the jade clothes is stitched by different kind of thread. So we kind of understand what it means, but it's not quite right from an English point of view. Different kinds of threads are used to stitch jade clothes. You could say that maybe. And of course we've got gold thread, silver thread, what have you. So there's a few omissions that were there.
I think they mix the tones, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Should you say copper or bronze?
I think it's bronze.
Bronze.
Yeah, but actually, no, Bentong is bronze. It's copper, isn't it?
Qing.
I think it's Bentong. Maybe Qingtong as well. Let's have a look. Does anybody know?
Because we call Bronze Age in Chinese Qingtong Shi.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Qingtong. Brass is Bentong. Yeah. So copper is just Tong. Yeah. But actually, here it probably is bronze.
Yeah. In Chinese, they just say.
Yeah, for sure. I think it probably you'd be okay with copper, but it's more likely to be bronze because I think copper needs more kind of refinement in order to bring it out, because and it tarnishes, whereas bronze doesn't because it's an alloy. Yeah, I think it should be bronze. Okay. Yes, the final line there. 三国时期彻底消失. Use the passive voice. You don't tend to use the passive voice very often, but in English we use it much more often. So here, this would be a great opportunity for passive. So the use of jade clothes was abandoned completely during the time of the Three Kingdoms, and Sangbo is Three Kingdoms rather than Three Kings. Okay. A couple of other little things. The date, whatever it was, the date for Han Dai. What was it?
公元前200到240年。
Yeah. You missed the date. Yeah. So that's a note-taking thing, probably. Just get it down quickly with a note. Or if you know it, then you have a rough idea, then do bring the date in, because it's the audience wouldn't necessarily know what the date is, and it's important information. Yeah.
How can we translate
BC or BCE if you want to be second.
just say this?
Yeah, BC is fine. It's in most situations BC is fine. You can say BC or BCE.
So until to back that's BC
200 BC.
200 BC, yeah, 200 BC. and 200 AD or 200 CE for Pop. Okay. You know, BC is before Christ. AD is Anno Domini, which is Latin for in the year of the Lord. So it's Christian calendar if you say BC and AD. BCE and CE is used. It's the same date, but it's just to secularize it. So BCE means before Common Era, and CE is Common Era. But to be honest, it's entirely up to you how which one you use. It's not too politically charged. Maybe if you go to Israel, it is. I don't know. Okay. Anything else? Did you have anything else to say on that one? Okay, fine. Who was next? Yes. Okay. Again, I think you're always come across very confident and very presentation is good when you're doing these speeches. I think that again, this is general for everybody, but I would say specifically you need to work a bit on pronunciation, English pronunciation. And really the best way to do this, aside from, well, it's not even speaking more, because you can speak more and you can continue to reinforce bad habits. It's actually listening more. Really listen and really absorb the pronunciation, and even try and mimic what you're hearing. If you just maybe so you don't look like you're crazy, but go and lock yourself away, listen to something, and shadow it. Shadow the speeches. Remember, we did some shadowing exercises last semester. Shadow them in English, English to English, and really work on perfecting your accent and your pronunciation. And again, slow down so you don't roll syllables together. If syllables kind of get mashed together, it can be hard to follow. So make sure you enunciate. Enunciate means that every syllable is clearly spoken, clearly projected. You want to enunciate those syllables, especially the vowels. So, yes, talking about jade symbolizing, you said the wills, the ways, and the principles of Chinese people. For the wills, I think it's more like maybe the attitudes, not the wills, because again, if it's wills in the plural, it's what you give to somebody, it's what somebody writes for when they die. Okay. Last will and testament. Yeah. So the will, and if you say the will, it's like it's kind of yi zhi kind of sense. It's not will so much. Will means I have an intention to do something or accomplish something. But this is more about the mindset or the ethos or the thoughts. What was the word you used to?
审美观.
Yeah, 审美观 is the attitude. Yeah, I mean you could even say values there, aesthetics, and there's lots of words you could use to kind of bring that in. But wills isn't quite right. Why did I write down 和谐? Jade is a symbol of 和谐, I think you said.
Yeah, because
Just
it's
和谐
extra
structure.
like transparent and
Yes, that's right. So we could say jade, the appearance of jade is said to be calming. Calming. It makes you calm when you look at it. Okay. Yes, good with jadeite. Terminology was good. You'd done your homework on the terminology. I noticed. And if you tell me you didn't, then I'm impressed that you knew all the terminology anyway. Okay. And that's all we got to the end of the presentation. So, Eric. Yeah, sure.
更加融入了普通人的生活. I found it really difficult to translate this sentence.
So we could say it increasingly became part of daily life, or became part of ordinary life. I'd resist the word integrated there, because I think if you use the word integrated, it's difficult to know where you go from the wrong. So I would just say it increasingly became part of daily life. Lots of ways you could interpret that, though. It became more and more visible in daily life, or ordinary people became more used to seeing jade in their daily lives, something like that. Lots of ways you can interpret it. Remember, we're not interpreting word for word, we're interpreting the thought for thought, the idea for the idea. Yeah. But don't get stuck on the verb, because if you think rong, you think integrate, then how do I construct a sentence around the verb? Because the verb is probably is the most important thing in the sentence, actually. So to get the right collocations around that, I mean, I'm struggling to think how would I use integrate? So I need to take it 2 steps away, because the first thing that goes off in my mind for rong is integrate. I don't know if that's the same for you, but that's the first place that I would go to. But actually, I need to take it a step away from integrate, because integrate doesn't help. This is one of the kind of the invisible arts of interpreting, is being able to move several steps away with those words very quickly, in order to get the best articulation. Yeah. You have a different way to do that?
I think, yeah, some between those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think integrate, if you said it was integrated into daily life, it's about the best you're going to get, I think, with rong. It's the best I can think of, maybe, off the top of my head. But it's better to say it became increasingly a part of daily life, ordinary life. Okay.
I also find it difficult to translate 温润, 坚韧.
Yeah, because a lot of it, this we say yu is like 温润. I don't think it might not be in the.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a let me think this.
I think what you said, calming, kind of.
Calming, yeah. Soothing, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see if I get some good synonyms of this. Relaxing, even. You can say relaxing. Relaxing, calming, soothing, not placating. That's the same.
I think more is you should say. At first, like the appearance is like of a calming color, like or some kind of texture, and you say it makes people feel, and it's like affect their way of like their attitude.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Does that answer the question for you? Is that all right? Okay. Great. Eric. I think sometimes you think faster than you speak. Yeah. So you need to match the pace a little more, because we've got objection becomes object, direction becomes. Decoration becomes direction or direct, and also with some of your changing nouns into adjectives and those things. The aristocracy class, aristocratic class. So the aristocracy is the noun, but if it's an adjective, it needs to be aristocratic. So I think that you're listening and you're digesting the information very quickly. I think you're going to what you want to say very quickly, and I think where it's tripping over a little bit is with is just being precise with these words in English. And sometimes I don't think it's always that you don't know what the right word is in English. I think like with objection turning into object, I think it's just you're trying to get this out too quickly. Does that make sense? Yeah. So just again, be mindful of it and control your pace a little bit more. Because actually the speed at which you're talking is quite good. So don't say slow it all down externally So slow it down a little bit internally. So just think a little bit more, be mindful, and listen to yourself, what's coming up. Because you don't have a problem with the listening. Your listening is good. So listen to yourself when you speak as well, when you're speaking English. And just go through and think, was that right? And don't be afraid to correct yourself if you realise that it wasn't. Your English into Chinese, no problem at all. That was all very, very fine, very competent. And obviously we were in the kind of Q&A section there, so you negotiated that well. And actually, when you were pointing at the different sections on the PowerPoint, you were using the PowerPoint very well, explaining which section was being referred to, and you were projecting well. The tone of your voice was projecting well. It's engaging. It means people will listen. They're not going to go to sleep while you're talking. They're less likely to go to sleep. So that's all good. I don't think there's anything especially difficult cropped up there. Did you have anything during that Q&A time with Eric? Did you have anything you weren't sure about?
The top left one.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to translate that.
Well, I think you did a good job of it, actually, to be fair. I didn't really know how to translate. Yes.
I actually didn't know the Chinese character name.
Right. Well, you did a good job of it anyway. It made sense, what you said. I think maybe you didn't, none of us knew. So, yeah, do you have any idea what it actually is?
I need to look up because I prepared in a short time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can understand.
Yeah, so I didn't do the research.
No, I thought, I mean, it looks a little bit like a glass of coffee or something, doesn't it? Some ancient, really ancient Chinese tea. And is this one in the top right as well? I can't quite see what it says in the Chinese. It's not a crane, is it? What is it? This bird.
Goose.
Is it? Oh, goose.
But it looks like a different look
It's
like
like a
a
vulture.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a goose. Well, anyway, no problem. You did fine on it anyway. Yeah. Certainly, I don't think anybody had any better version than you did. So. Okay, and the last one. Well done on my extremely difficult and extremely entertaining story. I hope that Becky and Christine have forgiven me for maligning the jade cabbage. They say what's really special about it is they just dug it out of the ground, and it was the colour was like perfect colours for cabbage, so they kind of carved it. In fact, let's while I'm giving you your feedback, let's have a picture of the jade cabbage to celebrate. There. 没看过吗？看过。Okay. Well, maybe I offended everybody by laughing.
Being offensive again.
Sorry?
I said you're being offensive again.
I'm being offensive again, yes. No. It's good. It's a good story. I like it. It's for my own entertainment, even if not for yours. Right. So again, your presentation is really good. You didn't get the hardest section because it was obviously a bit of a conversation back and forth. But your again, the tone of your voice, your delivery, your pronunciation, it's all good. And I think it improved a lot from the start of the year, and then it stayed consistently good. So well done on that. A couple of phrases. Simi was talking about the script where we had gone back to. Maybe this one? Or this one? Yes. Yeah, because you'd asked about the dog and the jade strings in the dog. And it's not an oracle. It would be we call them the oracle bones, but actually it's a oracle script, is what we call oracle bone script. So it would have to be this character or this character in the oracle bone script. An oracle is like some kind of like 星座来的一种限制性的什么东西 oracle, like your 预感, something like that. Like you're kind of you're seeing the future and telling what it's going to be, something like that. If you say oracle, and that's why these are called oracle bones, because they were used for that kind of purpose. So it's not an oracle; it would be a character from the oracle bone script. And talking about the dou, you said it's a content a few times when you meant it's a container. Container, yeah. Content goes into the container, right? Yes, and I wrote down as well for you. You said this phrase, quite a difficult manufacturing artifacts, and I didn't write down the Chinese. What was said there? Can you remember?
I think it's for the jade pearls.
Yes.
So I said basically it's like the little pieces, jade pieces, you have to kind of use the string to connect them and fit exactly of the body shape of each person. So it's like kind of very hard to.
Very hard to make.
Yeah.
Very hard to make. Yeah, but it's that phrase. It's quite a difficult manufacturing artifacts, which kind of is a bit jumbled.
Yeah, I probably said 工艺, 制作工艺,
Yeah, 制作工艺非常好. Yeah, that's what it was. So this 工艺, how we're going to interpret this word? Craftsmanship. Yeah, craftsmanship. Craftsmanship. So we would say it required a high level of craftsmanship. That's how we have to turn it around. Okay. Any further comments, questions, points? No? Alright then. So next week.
I have a question.
Oh yes, yeah.
When the present Sydney say something, but maybe have the same meaning, but they repeat again. So do I need to interpret them again, or does
No, you don't. I mean, make a judgment call on it. If she's repeating for emphasis, then you have to interpret emphasis. How you interpret the emphasis is going to depend on how you feel it's appropriate to do it. If she's repeating because she's just collecting her thoughts, then you don't need to interpret that. If it was translation, then you would be doing that, because or most of the time you would be doing that anyway, I would say. But yes, from an interpreting point of view, you don't need to do that. Okay, so your exam in 2 weeks, right? Yes. So I think the exam is timetabled for Thursday in 2 weeks' time, which means you have one more interpreting class with Xiaochen next week. Yeah, you've got the handbook there, anyway. And then I think I don't remember whether we have to do the exam in the class in the final week, or whether the exam is going to be on the Thursday and we have a final practice session. But you're aware that the exam will be in the form of 2 short, very short speeches, really. English to Chinese, Chinese into English. And I have a feeling we need to work out whether or not we can do you all in one go. I think we probably have to do Chinese into English in the morning, English into Chinese in the afternoon. That's what I'm remembering now. So I think it'll be on the Thursday in the final week. And in the morning it will be one direction, in the afternoon it will be the other direction, so you don't have to do both at the same time. And if the speech can be live, it will be live, but it's likely to be recorded. But we'll give you more information about that, and there'll be some practice session for it next week. Okay? So, I will see you all Thursday for dissertation, and then for Dave Jarman and his talk on entrepreneurship and business development, and then we're off to the museum at 2. Okay? So thanks everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you.
Did you tell them about the company?
No, I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Have you got a minute to talk? Great. Is this your bias? Oh, it's the camera.